Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 36 today for the Singapore Grand Prix here in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one, the Italian Grand Prix, then be sure to check that one out before you see this one. That was a very, very hectic, high-speed race, obviously, around Monza. A very different circuit now, Singapore street circuit. We'll see how it goes. Traffic and overtaking is going to be difficult as it is. Obviously, last season, we had a bit of a crazy one. We almost might have had a 1-2 if it wasn't for a safety car, so we'll see how this year goes, but you can see Red Bull make a step forward here to Singapore, and Red Bull, well, in previous years, maybe not in 2018 in real life, but previous years, Red Bull have always loved coming to Singapore to maybe mix it up with the top guys there, so they make a step forward, as well as McLaren trying to close the gap to Force India, and then you can see Renault match now Mercedes, so within a race time, Mercedes could be the lowest midfield, quote-unquote, midfield team there, because you can see also Sauber are closing up to become kind of part of that midfield, so it's going to be very interesting to see how that midfield fight goes on there. Obviously going into Singapore and hopefully having a bit of a easier time than we had at Monza. The ending of that episode was very, very hectic for us, so hopefully a bit of more plainer sailing here as we go into this one. So let's get into qualifying then and see how we do over one lap.
Welcome then to Marina Bay in a tough, bumpy street circuit that will test these drivers to their absolute limit. So sit back and enjoy the action here at the Singapore Grand Prix. This is the kind of track that eats rear tyres for breakfast, or so I'm told by more experienced drivers than myself.
No matter how good a driver is at managing their throttle application to limit rear slip, they can't always overcome a car that's inherently bad at looking after its rear tyres. Here we have a lot of low-speed corner exits, which means a whole load of energy, heat and tyre wear.
Alright, get ready to jump out if you get too hot in there. There's a problem with the cooling system, and it's going to take us a few minutes to correct it.
So for the second time this season, we have a major fault on the car. So unlike Spa, though, it's not going to hinder us too much. Obviously, at Belgium, it was starting to rain, and so basically this fault meant that we couldn't run before the rain came out on dry tyres. But obviously, Singapore, it rarely rains, really. Obviously, yes, in real life, it's rained last year, but in the game, it doesn't really ever rain here at Singapore. So we don't have to worry about that. You can see there, I fast-forwarded through until we got to the end of that fault. We were able to just go out there on the hypersofts. So you can see a little lock up there, trying to get used to the car. Definitely felt a little bit odd under braking here and there. Felt like the car wasn't fully there for me and didn't feel uber confident under the brakes, which is kind of ironic because it was kind of the same thing as Monza almost, but in a very different kind of way. Monza, obviously, you're kind of a little bit iffy maybe on the brakes because you're coming at the corners so fast, whereas this was more of a case of just, I don't know, just general, the brakes start to lock a little bit more than I thought they would. It's not like I put too much more brake bias or kind of pressure on the brakes than I did last season on this setup, and of course our brakes have actually improved from last season because of the chassis upgrades we've done, so that was a little bit odd. Also, maybe just a case of getting used to the Singapore circuit. Obviously, like I said, very, very different circuit to Monza, so just maybe getting used to having to chuck the car around all these corners. And so in the end, we do get into Q2 by the skin of our teeth almost, down in P15 there, the lowest position we could have got there. You can see Magnussen did very well in Q1 once again, and Fernando Alonso looking very, very strong there in Q1. So obviously, McLaren, Singapore's never been a McLaren circuit per se. Obviously, they go really well at Hungary, and Alonso went well there, but Singapore's one of those other ones where McLaren have genuinely been a little bit better, the kind of more better than the other bespoke circuits, I guess you could say. So we'll see how Alonso goes in Van Dorn as well, but hopefully for us we can have an easier time. You can see at the moment we are qualifying now on the ultra soft tyres, so I'm trying this strategy of going on the middle compounded tyre, because if you remember to last season when we almost had a 1-2 on here at Singapore, a big reason for that was because me and Magnussen were trying a one-stop on ultra to soft tyres. So if we can try and pull that off this race, I think that'll be the biggest kind of way we can maybe go towards a strong podium, if not the win even more. I'm aiming for that. Obviously, it's been a while since we actually had a win now this season, me or Kevin, so let's try and aim for that. At the moment, you can see we do get through into Q3, P4. We actually beat out Magnussen, so he had a bit of a tough time there in Q2 getting his hypersofts to work. Again, Alonso tops the session, so he's looking pretty good, so let's see if he's going to keep that pace in the top 10 shootout there. The Red Bulls are looking strong as well, Verstappen and Ricciardo ahead of us, but now, crucially, we're onto hypersoft, so now it's, a mano a mano. We have the same tyre as all the other AI drivers as well, so let's see how we do then versus Q2. Obviously now I can feel a bit more grip now in the car compared to Q2, but obviously there's a chance, you know, you never know that I make a mistake here and there. At the moment you can see it's a pretty tidy lap, you know, not any lockups so far, and through the second two is all fine and dandy. So through the last few corners then, getting really close to the wall on the right hand side, chucking it into the last corner, down one gear before climbing up, and then we're there across the line. At the moment, it was the theoretical provisional pole, then Ocon went faster, and you can see there Van Dorn had a penalty for his first lap, which is a little bit odd. So now we're into the last stages of qualifying. This is my last attempt. I had 2 fresh sets of hypers, remember, though, because I qualified on Ultras earlier. So at the moment, though, Ocon is ahead of me, and Verstappen is behind, which is very, very odd. So I don't know if the track has evolved any bits, and the Force Indias have picked up some more time, or the Red Bulls made a mistake on that lap, but for some reason the Force India has just picked up some crazy pace around Singapore. I mean, I was kind of, you know, okay, there's a reason why Force India might be good around Monza last episode, but if they're going to be good around here at Singapore, then I'm absolutely baffled at how Force India are just picking up all this pace now all of a sudden in the season, especially the last 2-3 episodes, you know, to say that they're on paper still a midfield team. And by the time we end the session, then we don't improve our lap time, or just barely maybe, and we're in 3rd place there. And Fernando Alonso does get pole position here at the Singapore Grand Prix. Esteban Ocon in 2nd place. So 2 of the midfield cars are 1 and 2 here. You've got both Red Bulls behind me, and then Magnussen had an absolute mare in qualifying down in P9 for some reason. Both Mercedes were out of Q2 anyway, so they're firmly a midfield team now, Mercedes, in this career mode. But very surprised to see Ocon there. Not so much Alonso though, but still great to see for his sake. Obviously he had a good time at Monza, you know, was ahead of us and just behind Magnussen, so we'll see how it goes then. But I'm confident. Remember, we've done this one-stop strategy now, we've set that up, so let's see how this works out. The others, they're going to start on hypers, so we have a really good chance now, I think, also with Force India McLaren there, to maybe take a win here around Singapore. So let's get into the intro for the race and let's go into it.
As the sun sets over the South China Sea, the sport that never sleeps is alert and raring to go. Welcome, under the bright lights of the Marina Bay circuit, to another Singapore Grand Prix. It's a very long, very physical lap, this one, and really there's not much in the way of margin for error. So we have a bit of an endurance race for you tonight. The 3.1 miles of the Marina Bay street circuit wind its way around some of the iconic landmarks here in the heart of Singapore. 23 corners in total, 13 to the left and 10 to the right, making this one of the most technical circuits on the Formula One calendar, with just 47% of the lap taken at full throttle. With me today, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about the engineer. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
It's been a really solid year so far. There have been some incredible standout performances, but what's really impressed me has been the consistency. With this kind of form, I'm expecting another great race today.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Fernando Alonso has a good view of turn 1 from his pole position slot, and it's Esteban Ocon in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have the engineer, Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, and Vettel, Perez, Raikkonen, Magnussen, and Stoffel Van Dorn, Hülkenberg, Sainz, Valtteri Bottas, and Ericsson, Leclerc, Gasly, Brendan Hartley, and Lewis Hamilton. Stroll and Sergei Sirotkin rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So on the grid here in 3rd place, Fernando Alonso directly ahead of us on pole position. Like I said, we know what the strategy is going to be today. The one-stop ultra to soft tyre. Last season, a safety car spoiled that for us, so let's hope and pray that, you know, it doesn't happen. But, you know, more often than not, a safety car will be called out around Singapore, at least in the real-life Grand Prix. It always has been the case, so let's just hope it's a bit better timed for us this time round, and maybe not so kind of closer to our pit stop, basically. So let's go for it then as we go to 5 red lights to the Singapore Grand Prix, round number 17 of this season. We go to 5 red lights for 31 laps here under the floodlights of Singapore, and it's a good getaway actually for us. Initially into Esteban Ocon. Can we go around the outside maybe of turn 1? He's slow into the apex there, but then into the next corner, Ocon just squeezes out there. We've locked up on the front left, and we just about managed to not put it in the same wall, ironically, that Ocon actually himself put it in real life after being punted off by Sergio Perez in the real life Grand Prix. So we just managed to survive that and also keep it around the outside of Max Verstappen to keep it in third place. Alonso is already checking out of this Grand Prix because straight away on lap 2, you can see on the minimap there, the gap Alonso has already due to Ocon fighting me briefly on lap 1 there has meant that Alonso is waltzing away, using that qualifying pace also to good use, and at least his McLaren is flying. Van Dorn is still in that pack there, so I'm genuinely surprised really, because this is more Fernando Alonso's AI really doing the work rather than the McLaren car. So I don't know what Alonso had in his porridge or whatever this morning, but he's clearly flying high at the moment. At the moment, we're just trying to struggle to get through and pass Ocon. Couldn't manage it on lap 2. We're going to have to wait maybe till lap 3. Obviously, the difference being now with DRS, we can maybe do something a little bit closer also to Ocon, get a bit of a better entry and exit to this corner. Then obviously high up into overtake mode on the ERS. DRS open now. Rich Mix has already been going since the beginning of this Grand Prix. And here we go now on the outside of Ocon. Big dive round the outside, but we locked up badly, and we've misjudged that. We broke way too late there, and Verstappen has managed to get us down the inside. Ricciardo tries his fancy on the outside. We just managed to squeeze out the Aussie man, and there's a big train behind us now as we swing through now to the very next lap, lap 4, and the gap is still the same to Verstappen, and Verstappen is right up the back of Esteban Ocon there, but that was a really costly mistake there for me, and well, I just tried to be too ambitious clearly on the brakes. I mentioned already in qualifying I wasn't too confident in the opening laps in Q1 about my brakes, and clearly just with some heavier fuel misjudged it a little, and then that front, you know, once the outside locks, it's just so difficult to actually get the thing slowed in and turned in there. We gained a decent amount though of Verstappen there in sector 2 after Ocon held him up, but we got now a safety car has been deployed there, and oh, what the hell has happened there? Verstappen has just crashed in front of my eyes under the safety car. He crashed, the safety car came out, and then that's when he decided to crash, and so we have now another reason to have a safety car. So it's kind of almost good that Charlie Whiting pre-predicted Verstappen crashing in a way, because this was why we had the safety car. Leclerc with a puncher and some carbon fibers broken off the front wing there. I think of Lewis Hamilton, who's really caught up there. He's behind a Williams and 2 Toro Rosso cars, so it's all looking rather dreary in the Mercedes world these days. But there is the bonkers crash there from Verstappen. He just slices off his front wing on the right hand side wall, and then the car just decks it into the left hand side and completely just flips a little and breaks off its tyres. Very odd. Highly sensitive rear wing there. Rear wing, or front wing I should say, and front right tyre, and then yeah, just the car just flung itself left, and obviously Verstappen was just a passenger there. That's probably the oddest crash I've ever seen on the F1 game, really, in terms of like in a safety car situation. That's just really weird. Okay, so we have to compose ourselves then and try and reassess what we're doing here. So the safety car is coming back in now on lap 7, so it's been out for 3 laps then, from lap 4 to lap 7. We're now the race leader because Alonso and Ocon came in. Of course, I was on ultra soft tyres, as is Bottas, as is Carlos Sainz on soft tyres actually. So now all the people that ran harder tyres have benefited here in terms of we've got the race lead. We're in the pack now at the top, whereas Alonso and Ocon now are going to have to fight through traffic. You can see now, me being the leader, I get to control and dictate the pace and when to go on the green flag. And you can see there, we have timed that to perfection compared to Bottas there. We caught him napping, bolted away, and so now let's try and maybe build the gap if we can. We'll have to see how long the tyres can go on for though. Here, as you can see, a little bit of understeer already there. Maybe some cold tyres also coming to play, but it's Bottas then. Carlos Sainz on soft tyres, like I mentioned. Let's see if he maybe holds up some people. And speaking about that, like I said, you know, now Alonso and Ocon and the likes of those guys are all going to have to contend with this traffic. As you can see there, as I bolt away from Bottas, it's Carlos Sainz then it's Marcus Ericsson in a very lofty position for the Sauber. Then you've got Hülkenberg, a Williams car, Toro Rosso, and then there's Fernando Alonso. So that was the race leader right there, and he's got, you know, what's that, 1, 2, 5, 6 cars to overtake before he even gets up to maybe Carlos Sainz and Bottas there. So Alonso and Ocon and everyone else pretty much with a lot of work to do. Look, I can't really see the likes of Magnussen or even the Ferraris really there. I think they're way behind there. I think both Ferraris are outside the top 10 at the moment. I don't know if they pit as well with Alonso. They might have well done because they must have started on the hypersoft tyres, but as now Alonso tries to use that McLaren pace and just the raw pace he seems to have around this circuit to get past the Toro Rosso. Then round the outside, nice move from him. Behind then is another Toro Rosso, Williams, Mercedes car of Hamilton. Then you've got Ocon there. So Ocon's found himself behind a Mercedes ahead of the Red Bull car of Daniel Ricciardo. Then's Vettel and Magnussen and Van Dorn. So you can see there, this is the last pack. Like that Sauber right at the end there is Leclerc. That is the last man on the track. So these guys are in the bottom 5 of the grid at the moment. Magnussen, my teammate, the 2 Ferraris, they're way down the order, but that's because they've already pit, obviously. They pit once, but this is the advantage I was talking about. We knew from season 1, if we tried the one-stop around Singapore, due to the traffic, just due to the nature of the circuit and, you know, the difficulty of trying to overtake around here, unless you have seemingly magical pace like Fernando Alonso, but even he's getting stuck behind a Williams car. Kind of duplicating what we had in real life, just gone by in the race weekend at Singapore. We had a Williams doing a great job in the form of Sorokin defending. I can't quite tell, is that actually Sorokin's AI car? If it is, it'll be amazing to see that. Oh, he locks up. No, it's Lance Stroll. So, okay, that makes sense then for the lock up then. Alonso down the inside and he overtakes Lance Stroll. But it'd be funny to see if Sorokin can maybe do some great defending here, just like he did in real life here, the counterpart. But now moving back to the top fight then. I can't quite believe I'm saying this is a top fight, but yes, Marcus Ericsson is involved in a top fight. Round the outside he goes then of the Renault to try and take 3rd place in the Singapore Grand Prix. He got a podium last race, remember. He was up there at Monza, 3rd place, and now at the moment he's in 3rd place here at Singapore. So he's doing a fabulous job there. And now moving back to my POV then on lap 11 then, and the tyres on go off a little bit. Big lock up on the front right, and we just narrowly get away with smashing our car on the right hand side barrier. You can see Bottas tried to make a move on the outside there. So in sector 3 he tried a side-by-side action there under that little bridge section, but the tyres are going off a little bit. I'm coming in on this next lap. That's where my scheduled pit stop is, lap 12. And so as we go on to that, basically in lap, then the tyres are already going away. So we have to watch out for it. Into turn 1, another lockup. It's very clear. I think my tyres are almost pretty much going off the cliff at this point, as Bottas now is down the inside, and he might just have this there. He gets the traction. We let him go. We're going to get a DRS then. We've got ERS as well to play with, as well as Rich Mix. We've been going from the start of the Grand Prix. So here we go then. DRS open. Let's try and re-overtake the Mercedes car. We do have the advantage in a straight line against the Mercedes now in Season 2. So here we go then on the left-hand side. Thought I was maybe going to go to the outside, but no, to the inside then. It's close there. A little bit of banging tyres on the right-hand side as Bottas squeezed me out. And now Bottas, a bit of karma there, mate, once again, because you try to squeeze me into the apex and you got squeezed out on the exit then. And Ericsson's actually up into 2nd. And now, because I pit, Marcus Ericsson will take the lead of the Singapore Grand Prix. Stuff you never thought you'd hear if you watch real life Formula 1, but there we have it. That's the beauty of the F1 game. So we're in, Bottas is in. Clearly at the moment I'm struggling a little bit of tyre wear there compared to Bottas, so I'm going to have to watch out for it on these soft tyres now to go all the way to the end of the Grand Prix and kind of just take a leaf out of what I did in Season 1. If you remember back to that episode here at Singapore in Season 1, you know, whilst I was there behind Magnussen in P2, I did a lot of good work to just kind of coast the car a little bit through certain corners where, you know, sometimes it's very easy to get the power down a little bit early, and I need to make sure I watch these tyres because they need to last me a long way. We're only on lap 13. We're not even halfway distance, and I have to go all the way to the end now on soft tyres. And, you know, yeah, lap 13 is not too far off half distance, but remember, Singapore is a very long lap, very, very long lap. And even the real-life drivers said it, you know, before the race weekend. Is now we watch Sorokin, I think that is, overtaking a Renault car. And Sorokin is doing some great battling here with the Renault here. Absolutely amazing stuff. And also the Toro Rosso might get involved. Sorry, my bad. It's not even Sorokin, it's Lance Stroll. Fair enough. Lance Stroll's around the outside there. It's, again, difficult to see, really, because their numbers not too apparent on the front on the front of their car. But there you go. Williams v Renault v Toro Rosso. But what was I about to say? I was about to say, you know, just like real life Singapore, the drivers have said then, you know, if nothing's going on in your race, Singapore feels like the longest race in the world. So I might have a bit of a dreary time at the moment trying to just protect these tyres. But anyways, we move on then through this battle. You can see a lot of traffic there for Magnussen, Vettel as well behind the Williams car. And you can see how far Alonso was to all these guys. So Alonso looking pretty damn good, as now you've got the Sauber at the tail end of that train, and we are catching. That's Leclerc on that tail end. You can see myself and Bottas and Ericsson are catching that train, and so eventually we will get to lap 15. My teammate is in along with some other people, and we're up into P10 now. So there's still some traffic to navigate, but it won't be as bad now because 4 people just got out of that train. So now move on to lap 17. The first bit of traffic is finally Sergei Sorokin. I've confused him twice now for Lance Stroll, but there we go. Round the outside now of the Russian. Will he make a good defensive work there? We'll try our best to hang around the outside, and Sorokin will give it a go though. Look at that. Around the outside he does try it, but we are going to squeeze them out as now we watch the Toro Rosso and Force India ahead of us fight there. Gasly v, I think that's Sergio Perez maybe. I don't know why, I think Gasly's still behind for some reason. It looked like he was ahead, but the name tag hasn't changed. Up ahead, and the Force India does manage to squeeze them out there, so fair enough. But we're going to close up rapidly now in Sector 2. You can see going side by side just isn't the one around Singapore because it loses you so much time. And by the time we get to the end of lap 17, we're closing up to Gasly. The Perez Force India is in, and Gasly now is going to be susceptible with DRS here around the outside on the right, on the outside of turn 1. Nice and easy does it. Leave him some room there, and just about find the car back on the track, and we're up into P6 then. And now we've got Hulkenberg to try and overtake. But meanwhile now, we've got Ericsson overtaking Valtteri Bottas as we close up on the Renault. There goes Ericsson down the inside, DRS aided as well, down the inside with ultra soft tyres though, to be fair. So I think Ericsson might have to make another stop, unfortunately, for his sake. So that's maybe why the Sauber's faster than the Mercedes at the moment. Obviously, the soft compounded tyre, remember, is 2 steps down from ultra soft tyres. So anyone on ultra soft tyres right now, as I try and overtake Hulkenberg with a very ambitious dive bomb there, and Hulkenberg pinches me so much so that now Ericsson's right behind me. So just like we had in real life, the traffic is a nightmare here, and Hulkenberg's holding me up to the point where Ericsson's right up my chuff. But obviously, yeah, like I was saying, remember, the soft tyre is 2 steps down because it goes soft, super soft, then ultra. So, and here in Singapore, it's hyper, ultra, and soft. So anyone on hyper and ultra soft tyres, just like I had, remember, at the end of Season 1 at Singapore, they're going to be flying compared to all of us on soft tyres because we're going to be going so much slower. I'm pretty sure that the delta time difference might even be a second to the soft, the ultra soft tyres. So we have to watch out for that and see if any 2 stoppers might come and spoil the party for not only me, but also Hulkenberg and Ericsson. We finally now find a way around the outside of turn 2 then on Hulkenberg. It's still not done though, because he's got some good traction, so this is becoming a really good battle now between me and the German. He just about leaves us enough room there, and we're still not passing. We have to wait until the main straight there. DRS open now, overtake mode on the ERS, Rich Mix going as well, and now finally we can overtake him. At the same time, look at that, Ericsson, the wily old fox there. Ericsson's really playing this very cunningly, and he's on the outside, and he's got him. Look at the top left, he's up into P5 as well. There you go. Ericsson is having a storming race. If it weren't for him having to pit later on, he might be in a very good position. But at the moment, the race leader is Carlos Sainz. Remember, he's been on those softs since the start of the Grand Prix, so he's not going to be in first place for too long, because eventually he'll pit, and this man, Fernando Alonso, will retake the lead of the Grand Prix. It's been a very dominant display here for Alonso there. He's pretty much been untouchable this entire race weekend. As now we move on to lap 21, and we set a PB lap time there, and Carlos Sainz is eventually in. So we're up into P3. Lance Stroll in second place. He should be pitting as well, so we should in theory be up into second place eventually in this Grand Prix. And P3, well, I'm going to guess it will be Marcus Ericsson for now, but Carlos Sainz might just spoil the party because he is out on ultra soft tyres. So like I said, the delta time is so big, and Ericsson's just there. Ericsson's not too far. To be fair, Carlos Sainz isn't too far off myself and Ericsson. Look, he's just in the distance there. His yellow car's just popped up in the background. So on ultra soft tyres, 1 second delta time difference, we might have an issue. We might have to do some defending from the Spaniard. Meanwhile, now we've got the other Renault under attack then from Valtteri Bottas. Bottas around the outside of Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg struggling with tyres clearly, and Ricciardo's defending from Lewis Hamilton in the top 10. And there's a huge scrap here. Whole gaggle of cars. The Toro Rosso ahead of my teammates. Side by side he goes with Sebastian Vettel at the moment there. Magnussen on the inside, Vettel on the outside. He's got him, it looks like, but Vettel will come back. He'll do the switchback move, and he'll pull to the inside there for the next Singapore sling. Look at that, Vettel down the... Oh, bit of contact made. Bit of contact made between Vettel and Magnussen, but Magnussen keeps ahead of 2 Ferraris, Van Dorn and the Force India. But that was amazing timing then from the replay camera shots there to catch that fight there. Really nice scrap there. But the 2 Ferraris, like the 2 Mercedes cars, not liking it at the moment around the Singapore Grand Prix. But back to our POV then on lap 21 on to lap 22. 9 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Stroll is in, and so the order is Fernando Alonso in first place still by an absolute mile. Myself in second, Ericsson third, but maybe for not too long, because there comes the Spaniard then in the Renault down the inside with DRS aid down the inside on ultras. You can see Ericsson's also on ultras, but he's got some just tyre wear maybe, and also the Renault still is technically better than the Sauber on paper in the performance chart. But you can see there I am struggling now at the moment on these soft tyres, going wide there, and the tyres just aren't gripping too much. That's not tyre wear, that's just the fact the soft tyres are pretty horrendous. there's a reason why, you know, they can go so long. They're so hard, and they have literally no grip around Singapore. So it's going to be a tough order maybe to keep Sainz behind, especially if he's flying like that. But on the other hand, Magnussen fancies overtaking the Toro Rosso. You can see also behind, Vettel's not troubled, but Raikkonen side by side with the one Force India, and then the other Force India is also battling Van Dorn, and the Force India does overtake the Ferrari. And will the second one do the overtake on the McLaren? Not quite. Van Dorn trying to use that McLaren speed there, the one that the speed that his teammates taken and just running with in a very dominant fashion. But at the moment, Van Dorn down the inside then, and he does squeeze out the Force India. Fair play, nice defensive work there from Stoffel Van Dorn as we now move on to lap 24, and Carlos Sainz is right up my gearbox here, and it might be an inevitable overtake, I can't lie here. Even with high ERS mode, we're not burning fuel though, because we just have to save a little bit for the end of this Grand Prix maybe, and you never know if anyone else is going to attack us. But overtake mode on ERS and deploying that, but Carlos Sainz will have the difference of DRS as well, and so he's on the right hand side. And to be fair, you can see I don't put up much of a fight there, because it's inevitable, because Carlos Sainz then, after he makes that overtake, waltzes away from me, and unfortunately then I'm left pretty much alone to my own devices. But there is still some more fighting in this Grand Prix, with the Ricciardo having issues and a bit of sparks fly away as he fights the Toro Rosso car, and the Toro Rosso ahead of the more senior sister team there, and the Ferrari is also closing up. And I can actually say towards the end of this Grand Prix then, I couldn't catch a replay camera of it, but Ricciardo does end up retiring from this race actually. So both Red Bulls with a DNF here at Singapore, whilst my teammate now overtakes the Mercedes car of Lewis Hamilton. So I think Magnussen doing a good recovery drive then to get up into, I think, maybe the top 5. We'll see by the end of it. But in the end then, it will be a very dominant win for Fernando Alonso. Carlos Sainz, it's a Spaniard 1-2, and you can see the gap on the minimap there. Sainz way ahead of us. He just had too much pace on the ultras. Like I said, that, you know, the tyre difference is just crazy from the soft ultras here, and so we're gonna have to settle for 3rd place. But still, I'll take that, because, you know, at Monza we could have got on the podium, we didn't. And so I'm just happy to be back on the podium, taste that champagne a little bit. But really, I'm just in awe of what was a sensational drive for Fernando Alonso to get his 2nd win of the season.
Brilliant job, mate. That's a fantastic podium. Super driving, really strong pace. Very happy.
McLaren have pulled it off. They've won in spectacular fashion here today. And Anthony Davidson, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result?
Well, they played the safety car to absolute perfection. There are so many factors to worry about once the race is neutralised. I mean, do you hit the fresh rubber? Do you have the space behind you? How much fuel can you save? If you answer all of those questions correctly, you'll have a good chance. And that's exactly what happened today.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be McLaren picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
So there we have it, a very dominant win for Alonso. You can see the pace he had was absolutely blistering. He did a 2-stop there in the lead and got there. But Carlos Sainz does a great 1-stop, just like he did in real life, but this time he gets him 2nd place rather than just, I think, 8th place there, wasn't it, in the real life Grand Prix behind Alonso's P7. But I'm sure the Alonso fans, you out there, will be very happy with that, his 2nd win in this season. But a good P3 for us in the Drivers' Championship. Obviously, that's good for us in terms of we get more points over Magnussen, our main and only rival, really. And now Fernando Alonso is up into 3rd place. He's ahead of both Ferrari cars. He is the only other non-Haas car up there giving any kind of pressure now in the standings, which is crazy to think, because he's really not been right there in the top 5 for a lot of this season. But he's been uber consistent, and then getting 2 wins like this as well adds to that. But he's been very consistently there, whereas like the Ferraris, the Red Bulls and the Mercs have been like very much up and down, very bipolar in the way their performances have been. You can see constructors wise though, even though you know, Alonso's been doing that absolute bits, you know, with 2 wins and his consistency, still not enough to get McLaren ahead of Red Bull and Mercedes. So they're going to have to do a bit more work, maybe, if they want to try and grab back any positions in the constructors there. Mercedes surprisingly still ahead of Red Bull, but of course a double DNF from Red Bull does not help their case. So Mercedes, despite being very poor now, a very much established midfield team, they're still just about holding on to P3 from the kind of legacy points they got at the very start of the season. But let's move into the final interview then of the weekend, and then we'll move off to the end of the episode.
Good day today. Tell us about it from your perspective. You must be thrilled to be up on the podium.
So I want to say I'm thrilled, but I was expecting it. I think on the right-hand side, be a bit showy and get that showmanship up. It's already kind of going that way anyway, but just, do even more to get it to the latter level.
Did you feel comfortable in the wet weather today?
And then, unfortunately, the next two questions I don't bother answering. Going to go with no comment.
Do you think you were lucky not to end your race?
And
with
once
that
again,
crash?
no comment. It's a little bit frustrating when we get these kind of questions where it's not going to benefit me to answer any of these ways. So just going to go no comment and leave Claire a bit annoyed.
Well, thanks anyway.
But that's going to be the end of the episode then, guys. And actually, funny enough, we're still drawing in this sixth rivalry then. It's 4-1, but this one we're drawing. So very, very close then between me and Magnus. And of course, we've had a few iffy races in the last three. So fair play. But we are just about beating Sebastian Vettel then still in our rivalry. The second time round that will be. And the reputation massively goes back up there for Haas. Of course, it went down a little bit after what happened in Italy. But yeah, that's going to be the end of the episode. And we're not going to be spending any points in the R&D, I don't think. And I got a question about that in the comments of why I'm not spending the points. The reason being is because we are going to probably be getting an R&D reset soon. Probably maybe in the next two episodes. It either happens usually around Russia or Japan, I think, most seasons. And I want to make sure I have a decent amount of points then to put against R&D. Now, I know the argument's going to be I'm not planning on staying with Haas for Season 3 because I'm going to do my job, win the championship with them, and so there's no point for me to stay with them. But at the same time, from last year, remember when I left other teams, we thought it was correct not to sabotage the team we're leaving, Yes, in reality, if I'm leaving the team, you kind of question why would I put the R&D, why would I save R&D for a team I'm leaving, but it's just, I think, personally for me, that's a bit of an exploitation of the game. And yes, it's there to do, but for the sake of keeping the series, competitive, interesting, I don't want to see Haas completely obliterated by an R&D reset after, especially I'll be pissed off myself if I did all this work and they all got undone with the R&D reset, even if I'm not in the team. So that's why I'm saving points, because I am going to save some R&D for the team, even though I'm leaving. So that's just a caveat. I wanted to answer that because I saw that was a question that got a few thumbs up from last episode. But anyway, guys, if you did enjoy this episode, then hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're on your end, you can subscribe for weekly Formula content. I have been Alva. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.